You might have noticed what we're going to be looking at today already, but if you missed it, we're talking about the pumpkinseed fish. A fish that has a perfect name for the fall season. Now, the pumpkin seeds might have a seasonal name, but they don't resemble a pumpkin or a seed at all. These fish have a sort of orange bluey body with some reddish speckles of color on them. Now, here in Connecticut, we tend to just call them sunfish, or some people might call them bluegills, but I've never really heard anybody here call them a pumpkin seed before. Though technically, bluegills and pumpkin seeds are not the same fish at all, but they are part of the sunfish family of fish. For those interested, here I will put a picture of the actual sunfish family tree, which might include some more fish you wouldn't think of, like bass on there. I'd never thought about that. Now, you're probably going to never find these at your local fish store because they are a native fish species found through North America. Since most pumpkin seeds are geographically located in the northeastern United States and some parts of Canada, though, they do live in more calm areas of freshwater, things like lakes, ponds, creeks, very slow-moving rivers. Now, if you've done any kind of fishing at all in a pond, you will probably have been greeted by a pumpkin seed frequently attacking your hook, no matter what you put on it. But these fish are also becoming very increasingly more common as a pet in our aquariums. Now, I'm going to preface that with saying, please do check your local laws before you decide to collect any kind of native fish species and bring them home. Each state and area is going to have their own set laws about whether you're allowed to collect native fish or other animals and remove them from their habitat and bring them home. So make sure you check those. And again, these laws are always frequently changing, so be sure to check anytime before you plan on collecting a native fish. Now, with all that out of the way, let's get back to talking about this stunning fish. These fish have become extremely popular species for fish keepers and will make it a great addition to most of your tanks because they are a beautiful fish and they are ideal additions to our freshwater aquariums at home if you're looking to add some color and personality to your home aquarium. Now, these fish do typically not get any bigger than 6 inches in length, and they do have about a lifespan of about 8 years if they are properly cared for. It is also not unheard of for them to get upwards of 12 inches, though, so just think about that like you would with any fish. Just because their typical size is like 4 to 6, 7 inches, they do have the tendency where they could get bigger and get to a 12-inch fish for you. These guys are a great addition to a backyard pond if you want something different, or of course an aquarium, as long as you keep them in the right conditions. As far as tank parameters for these fish, you could just keep one by itself, but like most fish, these guys are want to be in a pair or a small shoal of fish. So you're going to want to kind of treat them like an African cichlids in regards to the size of the tank you're going to want to keep them in. Personally, I would not recommend keeping them if it's a pair anything smaller than a 40, and if you're going to do a small shoal, I would say a 75. Now, these sizes are, again, just based on my personal opinion on how I would keep them now. In the past, when I did bring one of these home, I just tossed it in a 20-gallon, which was far too small for it. Didn't have nearly enough room to swim around, just kind of stayed right in the middle of one place and really never did much of anything. This will bring us into water parameters. Now, these guys are living in mucky, nasty, stagnant water, and they're really not going to be too picky per se, but since you are plucking them from a natural environment to put them in your glass boxes, I would suggest maybe trying to match their pH of the water they came out of, and then you could probably slowly convert them to your tap water range. Typical pH range for these guys are going to be anywhere from 6 to 7.5 in nature, and temps are going to range extremely large from freezing cold temperatures up into the high 90s. In your tank, though, anywhere from 40 to 80. Your mid to upper 60s, low 70s is a great range if you're going to keep these guys at home for you, especially if you don't want to worry about a heater. Now, the one I had 15 years ago had no issue going from nasty pond water that I had to deal with runoff that I really never tested the water to just going in my tank. I just tossed him in there and he lived. Now, he did kill off all my other fish, so to keep that in mind. If you want to add them to a community tank, personally, I would stay away from that though, because these fish can be extremely territorial, again, just like African cichlids. The males are sometimes known to be aggressive towards each other, especially if you have more than one male. Try and keep a close eye on them. If you notice fighting, separate them out. Try and put more breaks in the line of sight. Also, you're going to want to make sure you have enough room for your pumpkin seed to actually swim around without bumping into tank mates. So provide them lots of hiding spaces. Otherwise, they're going to become stressed and you're going to have a lot of issues that you normally wouldn't have. Honestly, as far as ease of care goes for these, pumpkin seeds are not that hard to care for as long as you give them an environment that's kept clean. Now, again, because their natural environment is yucky water like swamps and small ponds that unfortunately do suffer from all that nasty road pollution, they're not used to living in the best conditions. When you get them in your tank, it's almost going to be like a sterile environment for them. Keep their water clean. Probably do 50% water change a week because they are a somewhat messy fish, and they'll probably be on the good side for you and you don't have too many issues. Now, when you are setting up their tank, again, since they're a wild fish, you're going to want to try and recreate their environment more so than a fish from a pet store that's tank raised. We always hear people say, oh, I was creating the natural Amazon basin for my so-and-sos. Well, most of those so-and-sos are tank raised and aren't actually wild caught. So these guys, because they are wild caught by yourself, try and replicate best you can to what you might have had in their environment. That all being said, in the wild, pumpkin seeds are going to look for bodies of water that are going to have some organic substrate and a lot of vegetation for them to hide in. So then when you go to create their tank environment, when you relocate your pumpkin seeds into their tank, try and choose a natural substrate like sand. You'll want some kind of aquatic plants in your tank. That way your pumpkin seed has somewhere to take shelter and it'll feel more natural, along with some logs and rocks and other just safe spaces for them to get to so where they can reduce their stress levels when you add them into your tank. And again, since unfortunately these are wild fish, you might have to deal with treating parasites that you wouldn't normally have to from other fish. So if you're used to buying wild fish, Amazon puffers are a great example of this. They're typically known to come in with lots of parasites. You're going to be treating microscopic ones that'll typically infect their gallbladder, gills, skins, muscles, and then these microscopic organisms are going to create spores that'll just reproduce and ultimately cause a lot of damage to your fish, and then it can spread to other fish. Now, you can treat this with your normal parasite medicine and you should be fine. I was lucky, never had to worry about this with the wild one I had. Now, if you are in the market for some fish medicines, I would definitely suggest checking out keepfishkeeping.com. Link in the description, also pinned comment of this video. On there, you're going to find a wide range of fish medicines. Parasite medicine wise, you're going to find a lot of Fritz products, things like ParaCleanse, Expel P, ProziCleanse, things that you're going to want to keep on hand anyway. But if you're thinking about getting these, might not hurt to pick one up just so you have them. Now, you might be asking yourself, what can I feed a native fish? Will normal fish food be okay? And the quick answer is 100% yes. Your normal food, run-of-the-mill, anything will be just fine. But if we want to take a closer look at these fish's diets and kind of dive into what they're going to be eating in the wild and give you maybe a more fun experience you're not used to with your fish, pumpkin seeds are omnivores. They're not really picky eaters. They'll typically accept, a wide range of live or prepared foods, but in nature, they're primarily eating small crustaceans, insect larvae, insects, bugs, things like that. But in captivity, they will take things like freeze-dried bloodworms, brine blackworms, daphnia, grindleworms, things like that you're going to probably want to keep as a staple in the diet, but they will eat flake foods, they'll eat pellet foods. It might just take them a while to get used to it. So what you might have to do, it sounds bad, but they might need to not eat for a few days, and then when they get hungry enough, they'll slowly start accepting more and more foods. If you can't get your hands on any of the kind of worms, I would highly recommend the Hikari Vibra Bites because those are simulated to look like worms, and I know a lot of people have had success with going from a freshly wild caught fish to being able to put those in their tank and the fish accepting them with very little fight. Now, they will also eat anything they can catch and swallow, which comes into play when you're looking at tank mates. You're not going to want to keep anything smaller than them in the tank with them. Honestly, I would just do a tank of these and they're going to be beautiful for you. Now, given how active they are with feeding, you're going to want to feed them several times a day just to keep their metabolism operating like it would in the wild. So lots of small feedings throughout the day if you can. Now, when I had mine, I was pretty much only feeding him Tetra Tropical Flakes, and he had no issue chowing down on those. I did occasionally go out into the backyard, find a nice juicy earthworm for him and toss that in the tank. And let me tell you, if you want to see your fish get super excited for food and show their true predatory nature, you're going to want to try this with yours too if you get one. At first, he wasn't really sure what to do with the worm, but as soon as he saw that worm wiggle, he attacked the worm so fast and just kind of ate it like when you slurp up a noodle. It was a super fun interaction to have with my fish that I wouldn't have normally had if I wasn't keeping a native species. For those of you that might want to try your hand at breeding these guys, they do become mature around 2 years old, but it can range anywhere from 1 to 3. It just depends on the fish. Pumpkin seeds are going to want to spawn in the warmer months, and now in nature they typically don't spawn until May and as late as July, but the water does need to be around 68 degrees Fahrenheit before the mating process will even begin. Now, the mating behavior for these guys is that the male will begin with building a nest, and then the male is going to chase his female into that nest. Once that female has been actively pushed into that nest, they're going to go into their little dance where they conjoin their bodies. Now, the Females are capable of laying hundreds of eggs at a time. Once those eggs are laid, the male's role is to defend those from any predators at all or debris that might land on the eggs, which can damage them. If anything does land on them, they're just going to use their tail and kind of push whatever's on there off. So if you are looking for a different kind of fish to try in your aquarium and you happen to live in an area where these do frequent, they're a fun fish to try. Nice, colorful, native fish for those people that like more native keeping. And they're honestly not that hard to get. When I've been fishing, I've caught them on an empty hook. These things literally bite on anything. If you don't want to damage them, you of course could probably coax them into a net if you wanted to put some kind of food in a net, and then once they're in there, just kind of pull it out like you would when you catch a fish out of your tank. But again, do make sure you check your local laws before you do any native keeping. Remember, these are native fish, so do your research on them. Keep their environment in your tank as close to what you got them from as possible, just to reduce stress levels there. Keep some parasite meds on hand. Should always keep those on hand anyway, but especially with these, since they are prone to parasites. I do hope you did enjoy watching this video. Let me know down in the comments if you've kept pumpkin seeds before or other types of sunfish in your aquariums. Until next time, I will see you around.